Hey everybody, MrThefanboy here, back for another review, and this time this is my review of the January 18th, 2018 review of Impact on Wrestling. I'm also going to do a short recap review of the January 4th and 11th review, which I did the 11th Tuesday. With that being said, let's get started. Tonight was a pretty good Impact. This was one of those story themed Impact episodes where they didn't have a lot of promos this week, but they had a lot of promo packages setting up Genesis, which I think is next week. Setting up Genesis the live Impact special Genesis, where a lot of awesome matches are going to take place. But the matches on here that did take place were good. The very first one was the X Division champion Taiji Ishimori defending his X Division championship against Desmond Xavier in a phenomenal match. Knew this match was going to be good and was immediately excited for it when I heard about it last week. But I didn't think it will be this good. Not only was the wrestling, not only was the technical wrestling and the high flying, all the stuff we expect from both of these wrestlers, good. The psychology and story of this match was really good. You had the beginning with both of the guys having explosive tempers being in each other's faces. Then towards the end, when Desmond Xavier started getting frustrated because he couldn't put Ishimori down, so he just kept punching and kicking him with stiff punches and kicks, telling him to stay down. And Taiji Ishimori found his Hulkamania moment and said, nah, come on, nah. And then after several more minutes of wrestling, Taiji Ishimori managed to gain the advantage, hit his sunset flip maneuver off the top rope, and pinned Desmond Xavier for the 1, 2, 3. And the announcers were quoting that Desmond Xavier, he didn't have the killer instinct, and at the end of the match, Desmond Xavier showed something I've never seen before, and that was frustration. So he's hitting at maybe a heel turn down the road. I wonder if he's going to try to turn heel right there. So I'm pretty sure there'll probably be a heel turn down the road. And the next time they meet, it'll probably be personal. They probably won't be friends, but he still congratulated him anyway, despite his visible frustration. Awesome match. Love the X Division. The X Division and Johnny Mundo currently are two of my favorite things in Impact Wrestling. I like everything in Impact Wrestling, but those two things right there, the entire X Division, Ishimori and the entire X Division, and Johnny Mundo are my favorite things on Impact Wrestling, and I especially love watching Mundo and Ishimori wrestle because whenever they have the two coolest, interesting themes. You saw me use Ishimori's theme, which is called there's a full version of it already because it's a popular song in Japan. It's called "Fight It Out" by a band called Mothball. Mothball. That's already a like popular version. I thought I would have to. I thought I would only find a loop version since Ishimori's a new wrestler here in Impact wrestling, but his interesting is a popular song in Japan. So yeah, but I love when they come out because I get to hear that awesome song "Fight It Out." I get to hear Johnny Mundo's song, which reminds me of a mixture between his WWE his AAA Mexican wrestling theme, his and Hulk Hogan's WWE and WCW themes, Real American and American Made, respectively. So yeah, I love it when these two wrestle because I get to hear those awesome songs. When these two wrestlers and win, I get to hear that awesome. I get to hear those awesome songs. So yeah, and they're like the best things. The tag team division is pretty good. It's going to get better in the upcoming weeks from what I've been reading. But most of the tag teams I like it. Most of the tag teams I like Renault Scum and Veterans of War have already parted ways from TNA. So the tag team division is still good with Ohio versus everything at LAX. But it was better months ago when all the other tag teams were still there. But it's going to get better in the upcoming weeks. Yes, I'm also going to be talking about some of the TNA news I've been hearing. Some of the TNA news I've been hearing. With that being said, let's continue. So that was the first match of the night. The next match, I skipped this part. I didn't feel like watching a rewind of this. Was a rewind of Eddie Edwards and Damian Sandow from I think either last year or late 2016, either early last year or late 2016. I can't remember. But this was the next match of the night, and it was this was the next match. I skipped all the way to the end. I didn't feel like watching it. So the next real match was Spinelli taking on Rosemary in a pretty good match. Rosemary nearly defeated Spinelli with her finisher, but the real story came what happened after the match. After it was over, I keep forgetting. I think it's Naya, something like that. I think something like that. A woman came out of nowhere and brutally attacked Rosemary. Rosemary later got the advantage and was about to hit her finisher, the F5, on the ramp, but the woman reversed it and pushed Rosemary and tried to run away, but Rosemary came storming after her and she reversed it with a power bomb. I mean, not with a power bomb, with a spine buster, and onto the ramp and continued the beatdown. So yeah, I'm seeing interesting where this goes. The next match of the night was what Mundo was talking about next week. Mundo last week he cut an awesome promo saying, "I will see you, Eli Drake, and you, Alberto El Patron, next week in Detroit." And they were wrestling for a independent promotion in Detroit. They had a three-way in an independent promotion, and this was what an awesome fight! Even the referee got aggressive. In one funny and surprising spot, the referee said, "If you guys don't cool it, I'll fight you." He said, "Come on," and all three of them collectively, these three guys who are bitter rivals, for one moment teamed up to give this guy a super kick so they could all knock him out so they could all continuously go at it. Then the new referee just had to throw it out. He couldn't control it. He just had to throw it out and the entire that promotion's entire locker room had to come out and break it all up. An awesome segment. I like how this is something from the old TNA. I like how they have matches in other places, how they defend the belt and have matches in other places. I remember them doing that in the old TNA. So happy to see that. That's something that's back in this TNA. This TNA. These were the three best segments. Everything else was just hype from what's his name. Oh yeah, there was also another match between Congo Kong with Jimmy Jacobs versus Joseph Park and his new client Chandler, who is Ethan. I think his name is Ethan Page. He's from a promotion I think called AAW, All American Wrestling, All American All American All American Wrestling, and he's portraying I think Joseph Park's brother. I think he's also Joseph Park's brother in storyline. Last week he beat Bolin. He beat Bolin last week. He beat John Bolin last week, an OVW wrestler and former enhancement talent. He beat him last week this was a funny match right here. You want to go back to last week for a moment. This was a funny match on the January 4th edition. The January 4th edition, he beat this guy. This right here was a funny match because Chandler, who looked like the jobber, beat Bolin, who looked like the guy who would be the star, destroying the jobber. So that was an interesting match. I really hope they sign Bolin because that was just funny that this guy right here looked like the star and Chandler, the guy who won, looked like the jobber. So that was just funny. In the January 4th edition, talking more about that. Like I said, I did say I was going to recap and review the last 2 weeks of Impact. In January 4th, you had Taiji Ishimori upsetting Trevor Lee to win the title. I had Trevor Lee winning this. It was funny when Ishimori first came to Bound for Glory to TNA at Bound for Glory. Like, you know what? I can't wait to see more of this guy. This guy will be a future X Division champion. Fast forward just 3 months later, X Division champion already. The future is now, just like with Eli Drake. 2015, I said Eli Drake would be in 2015. I said will be a future TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Fast forward to 2017, just 2 years later, TNA Heavyweight Champion. Then of course, hold on, I'm on what's his name now. That's Ishimori defeated what's his name. Then 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 of course you had the three-way match between Matt Seidel and EC3 and Fallen Ball for the Grand Championship. Fallen Ball won round 1, EC3 won round 2, and EC3 also wins round 3 and of course retains his title with the crowd wanting one more match. This was an awesome match right here. This was another awesome match right here. Can't remember every detail from the match. I'm on cageseats.com to remind myself of everything that happened because I didn't feel like rewatching the entire show. Then of course next we have Dan Lambert, versus James Storm, the career versus career match. And this is something I got to talk about. Now, we knew James Storm, since he was leaving, he was going to lose this match. But I really wish they would have given him a better send-off. See, I wish they would have given him a better send-off in this match instead of multiple people double teaming him and kept constantly hitting him with beer bottles. This is supposed to be a tragic moment, and it just makes James Storm like a joke, and it makes it comical. The whole thing was comical what Lambert and the guys kept doing. And with AJ Styles, it was funny because he was at that time he was talking a lot of crap about TNA, thinking he was bigger than the company. So the company beating him up and jumping Magnus and the entire company beating him up and jumping him and putting him out of TNA was forcing him out of TNA was hilarious and awesome. But here they should have sent James Storm out with a they should have sent um they should have sent they should have given James Storm a much better send off. He deserved a much better send off than this. Yeah, yeah. Um. So yeah. I wish Lambert would have done more. I'm talking about physical. I'm talking about more physicality. See, Lambert is why this right here is why I don't like celebrities in wrestling, because you got some like Bonner and Mo who will get in there and fight and wrestle, but then you got guys like Lambert who will just run around the ring and have the other wrestlers attack, have the other wrestlers do the fighting for him, or you will have the wrestlers constantly chase the celebrity around, and the wrestler, especially if he's a heel, will make himself weak enough to be attacked and beat up by the celebrity. And that's why I don't like celebrity involvement in wrestling. However, when the celebrity actually fights and takes bumps, I actually do like that. But segment was it was good. Massive heel heat, but Storm should have got a better send off than that. I did like the end. I did like the end where Storm was backstage with everyone saying goodbye. That was a better send off than what we saw in the ring. Next was Alberto El Patron, and of course Eli Drake. Eli Drake wins. Eli Drake uses his championship as a weapon to successfully pick up the win. Then LAX versus OVE, who I don't remember when it happened, but a double turn at some point happened where LAX became the baby faces and OVE became the heels. I liked it better when OVE was the baby faces. I relate more to them than I do LAX. But this has been an awesome this has been an awesome feud. If LAX had lost this match, they would they would have to disband. They managed to defeat OVE to regain the TNA Tag Team championships in the main event. Of course, that was last week. Now a recap of last week. I reviewed this Tuesday. Lambert comes out promo. He gloats about ending James Storm's career. Compares the fans to cockroaches for cheering for guys like James Storm, for having the standards to cheer for someone like James Storm. Then KM comes in the ring, joins America's top team, and he joins America's top team. Then of course EC3 open challenge. He has an awesome match with Petey Williams that's interrupted by Matt Sydal coming out and attacking EC3 Petey Williams. EC3, much to my surprise, I got this wrong last week. EC3 won by disqualification. I thought it was a no contest. No contest, and Matt Sydal tells EC3. Matt Sydal tells EC3 what an explosive personality, tells EC3 to put the title on the line next week. To put the title on the line at Genesis. And this is the show where Sydal will beat EC3, and EC3 will later compete in Feast or Fire to get the fire cased. And of course part ways with Impact Wrestling. Then of course I mentioned they show the highlight of James Storm versus Kurt Angle for the back in 2011 for the Impact Heavyweight Championship. Then of course um Casey Spinelli wrestled Laurel Van Ness, and Laurel Van Ness defeated her with the Prettier. Um, Next, Eli. I mentioned skipping the first part of this segment, which was Eli Drake and Alberto El Patron skipping I mean hyping up their debut match for next week for next week for this week. And but I did love Mundo's part where he came out. Like I said, I love whenever Mundo or Ishimori comes out because I get to hear their awesome themes. They have the two best themes in Impact Wrestling, and Mundo Mundo came out and said, "I will see you next week in Detroit, and I will see you next week in Detroit." Then, of course, one of my favorite, of course, like I said, next was the X Division. One of my favorite things about Impact Wrestling, and that was Trevor Lee, Caleb Conley, and Hakeem Zayn, the heels, taking on the babyface team of Sanjay Dutt, Desmond Xavier, and Garza Jr. Um, the babyface team wins when Desmond Xavier hits his spinning corkscrew senton onto Zayn for the 1, 2, 3. After the match, Ishimori comes out to congratulate him, and they have a stare down to hype up their match. That was this week. That was this week. And of course, the main event was Lashley and KM versus Moose and Eddie Edwards and KC KM KM wins with the power bomb lawnmower to earn a victory. Now of course going back to this week, and the rest of the show is basically promos, to hype up next week's show, which I can't wait for. But let's talk about some of this news. I mentioned last week Austin Aries is returning, but also Eli Drake also manages to secure two cases. I keep forgetting who he defeats to get the other case, but he secures two cases, and then he secures two cases, and then he manages to get a tag team. He manages to get a he manages to get a tag team title shot. A He manages to get a tag team title shot, and the returning Scott Steiner. Steiner is his is his is his is his Scott Steiner is his tag team partner. Happy to see Scott Steiner back, and also Tommy Dreamer. Tommy Dreamer Tommy Dreamer is also returning to Impact. Tommy Dreamer is also returning to Impact Wrestling. Yeah, I keep forgetting what he. Let me read right here to see what he was doing. Hold on, I'm reading right here. I can't remember everything. Yeah, Eli Drake defeated Moose in a case versus case match. Drake now has two cases for shots at the Impact and Global Tag Team Championships. And during the attack, During the match, OVE attacked Moose and Eddie Edwards with the attack Moose, and Eddie Edwards came with the save. Drake hit Moose with a baseball bat. Moose kicked out, but Drake hit his finisher for the 1-2-3. Um um Oh yeah, other spoilers were Petey Williams defeating, much to my surprise, Josh Matthews with Matt Sydal at ringside. The match ended in DQ when Sydal interfered. Williams got beat up after the match. That's weird. Then of course, yeah, Drake. But this was the part I was talking about. Drake cashed in his tag team title shot against the current champions LAX. His tag team partner is Scott Steiner, and the match will take place at their Redemption pay-per-view on April 22nd. The show will take place in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. That's good right there. That's good right there. Always good. Um, while I hope they go to a bigger arena this time, they probably won't. I am happy to hear that they're having shows in other places besides Orlando, Florida, the Impact Zone in Orlando, Florida. Then of course, Moose defeated Sami Callahan via DQ after Callahan used a baseball bat during the match. Post match, OVE beat up Moose. Eddie Edwards came out to make the save, and he gets stopped. Um, the lights out, and of course my boy Tommy Dreamer appears, and he makes the save. They're even if you go to WrestleLink for GFW news, there are even pictures of both of these segments. Braxton Stutter and Su Young and a wrestler named Su Young defeat Fala Bala and Kiera Hogan. Post match, Ali and Young brought to their separated. This happens on one of the future impacts. Impacts, and then also on one of the impacts, Alberto El Patron, Matt Sydal, Sami Callahan, Jake Christ fight Moose, Tommy Dreamer, Petey Williams, and Austin Aries. Man, I can't wait till this episode of Impact Wrestling airs. I'm also here to talk about this is old news, but I didn't mention. I don't think I mentioned it in my review of Impact this past Tuesday, and um that's Chris Mordecki Masters already has parted ways with Impact Wrestling. Kind of sad to hear that. He was also one of my other favorite things in Impact Wrestling. Impact Wrestling during him and Drake's feud with Moose, I was actually, despite being a huge Moose fan, I was more on their side because Mordecki and Drake were, my opinion, better wrestlers. But at least Scott Steiner is back and he gets to be Drake's tag team partner. But I would much rather been Mordecki. I always wanted to see Mordecki in Impact Wrestling. I remember in 2012 when he was at a couple of live shows and really wanted to come to Impact Wrestling, but they never signed him. And finally in 2017, I finally got my chance to see him in Impact Wrestling. It was fun while it lasted. Sucks it was last long. I think that was the one departure I didn't mention, but yeah. But like I said, new faces, and like I said, love the direction TNA is going in. I hate all the departures, but I love the direction TNA is going in. And Brian Cage immediately enters a feud immediately enters a feud with Lashley and KM. KM, of course, who's part of America's Next Top Team. Also, yeah, I think I mentioned Lashley I mentioned Lashley departing. Also sad to hear America's Top Team are departing. I was actually enjoying them as a top. I was actually enjoying them as a top heel faction. Besides Lashley, my favorite was the guy. He was bandaged last week and got a big boot from Moose and Eddie Edwards last week. But the guy with the camo pants and the kick pads is probably my favorite besides Lashley. is besides Lashley. So yeah, Saturday here they've been going, but these were some of the spoilers I've been reading on Impact. I mentioned Austin Aries winning this past Tuesday, eventually defeating Eli Drake for the Impact Championship. But like I said, another pretty good episode of Impact. Can't wait for Genesis and these future Impact spoilers I've read. These Impact shows I've read. I've read. Well, like I said, this has been my review of Impact. Another awesome show tonight. It sucks there wasn't a whole lot of wrestling. It was mostly promo packages, but it was pretty good for what it was. I'm done.
What should I do? I don't know what to do.